You mean we could have had Ozzie Newsome? This is RamView.
It's on. Let's blow them up the line of scrimmage. Headline, Los Angeles.
Live from the Ram Cave, I'm Joe Trosian, and this is RamView, the May 3rd, 2024 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Injured in an auto accident, need help, got questions? Call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. That's Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. That's one word, KistlerLawFirm.com. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair. Having some auto issues, get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. And of course, by Granite Ridge Christian Camp, a place where your life can change. It's already Friday. It is the May 3rd edition of RamView. We're going to talk a little bit about Nolan, Cromwell, Ozzie Newsome, but we're also going to take a look at the Rams right now, some of the talk about Stafford, some of the talk about Aaron Donald, the current roster, some of these things that are breaking down, a little bit around the NFL, and a lot of good stuff. But the Lakers fired their coach today, which is another exciting thing, and people are really upset because they can't seem to figure out that the spike in women's basketball was caused by Caitlin Clark and not because people were interested in women's basketball. Anyway, Ram stuff. Let's get to it. I'm happy to be here. Thank you guys for all your support, for the numbers that have boomed. Basically, what's happening with Spotify, people have asked me, is Spotify, I just have to restart. I'm having all kinds of problem re-accessing my account. They wanted me to change my password, locked me out. So I got to start all over again. And the truth of the matter was our Spotify presence was pretty poor. I think we only had 19 followers, and we were only averaging on a good day 2 or 3 hits. So we're going to reboot Spotify. Might have to modify the name again. I might call it From the Ram Cave, but just to answer that question. Okay, get that stuff out of the way. Question came into me from a loyal follower. Aren't we going to talk about Matthew Stafford and his contract? And the truth was, I think I did. I think we talked about it, that Stafford's not looking for more money. He's just looking for his money to be guaranteed. And where I've seen a few talking heads, I'm not going to call them KBM, folks have been trying to spin this into some kind of situation. There is no situation here. And in fact, hearing that he wants guaranteed money means he's talking about playing in 2025, maybe even 2026. And that is the Rams' Super Bowl window, 2024, 2025. And I'm leaning towards 2026, but we're going to see how it plays out. That's the Rams Super Bowl window. That's the new window we're in right now. And I don't think, who can say winning the Super Bowl, but I definitely think in the next 3 years, if not this coming year, Rams are going to be back in a Super Bowl game. And Stafford's contract fits that. And so he's feeling good. He's feeling healthy. And why not guarantee his money? Here's the thing, too. They're paying more money to Dak Prescott than you are to Matthew Stafford. Stafford should be paid somewhere in that $58 to $60 million range. Who are you going to trade for him? Honestly, let's forget about the age issue. Who do you trade for, right? In the NFC right now, Brock Purdy, Geno Smith, Sam Harrell, Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott. I'm not even going to say Jaden Daniels. I wouldn't say Jaden. We haven't seen Jaden Daniels do anything. Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, right? Who are you going to trade him for? Jalen Hurts? No, I'm not dancing with that. Jared Goff? No. Caleb Williams is really interesting, but now that all that speculation is over, he's in the NFL. Now he's got to prove himself. Who? J.J. McCarthy? Jordan Love? Who are you going to trade? Baker Mayfield? Spencer Rattler? Derek Carr? Michael Penix? Not now. He's in the league now. I haven't seen him do anything. Kirk Cousins? Who are you going to trade him for? Bryce Young? No one. He's the best quarterback in the NFC. AFC? I'd trade him for Patrick Mahomes. I'd trade him for Josh Allen. And I would probably pull the trigger on Justin Herbert. Not even CJ Stroud at this point. We've seen the deficiencies in Lamar Jackson. Yeah, we know you're not going to trade him for Deshaun Watson. You're not going to trade him for Russell Wilson. You're not going to trade him for Aiden O'Connell. So there's like 2 or 3 quarterbacks, literally 2 or 3 quarterbacks. I'm not trading him for Joe Burrow. 2 or 3 quarterbacks that are at Stafford's level or better, or at a different point in their career. And Stafford's in the 50 million range. He should be already in that 58 to 60 million range. So you've got a bargain in Matthew Stafford. There's nothing to talk about here. There's no complaint. And the question wasn't put in a pejorative manner to me. They just wanted to know if I was going to talk about it. I'm responding more to the talking heads. We get from Matthew Stafford is a bargain, and we're blessed as Ram fans in that football sense to be in a 3-year window. Yeah. Okay. Moving on here. It's nice to know if you saw the Rich Eisen thing and everything. It's nice to know that here at RamView about a month and a half ago, we were ahead of the curve, right? We started talking about, could Aaron Donald come back late in the season? And sure enough, Les Snead speculated that he used the story of what's his name coming back, Eric Weddle coming back, and everything. And I remember bringing that kind of stuff up back in March. Some of you were with us then and kind of got laughed at. I mean, I had one guy literally send me laughing emoji at how stupid I was, right? Well, again, you're not any worse than the KBM media guys. You've watched the Rams. You know what to expect. You got a sense of everything. And I wasn't Nostradamus in saying that. And I wasn't the only one saying that. But when people laugh at you for your thoughts, don't let them get away with it, or don't take it to heart. Don't let them beat you up. If you're a nuanced fan, if you've watched the game, if you studied the game, if you're up on them, you got thoughts that are just as good, and you got less reason to be lazy. All right. On a Wednesday show, I broke down a little bit. Well, I didn't break down anything on Wednesday's show. I talked about the Rams' current roster and that there were only 3 players that were first-round draft picks. That was Stafford, Tre'Davious White, and Jared Verse. Stafford was drafted by the Lions. Tre'Davious White hasn't played a down for the Rams. He was drafted by the Bills. And, of course, Jared Verse just drafted. There are 69 players on this Rams roster that are NFL players. 85 of them, there's 85 when you count the 16 that signed undrafted free agent contracts, okay? So when you look at the 85 or 69, depending if you want to count the UDFAs that just signed, only 3 Rams are first rounders. Only 5 of them are second rounders, and only 9 are third rounders. That means on the first 2 days of the draft, the Rams have 17 players that were first or second day draft picks. First or second day. That's out of 69 players that are on the roster that are veterans. That's out of 85 players that are on the roster total right now. Fourth round is kind of it's kind of a transient spot. It's not premium, but it's not bad. They have 7 fourth rounders, and then it really goes up. You got 8 fifth rounders for the Rams, 10 sixth rounders, 8 seventh rounders, and before the UDFAs that just recently signed, you had 19 undrafted free agents under contract with the Rams. Now you've got 35. And what does that tell me? Well, they don't have a whole lot of guys that are first and second day picks, right? But what they do have is a lot of hits in the 5th, 6th, and 7th round. Now, are all these guys stars? They're not all Puka Nacua. They're not Kyrene Williams. But you know what? They're solid contributors who give the Rams clicks. And this is why you can go out and make the moves the Rams make usually when they're in the Super Bowl window, because their base is covered. And I thought that was really interesting of a roster that right now is 85 strong. 17 of them are first, second, and third round picks. That blows me away. That absolutely blows me away. All right, we're going to get to questions here in a minute. I haven't looked at the board yet. Let's do around the NFL and other places. One of the things that's been fun since the draft is the rumors about Brandon Ayuk being traded by the 49ers. He pulled his social media down, yada, yada, yada. And now recently it's switched that Ayuk will stay and Deebo Samuel will be the one that's moved, that they're going to redo Ayuk's contract to move Samuel. And I'm all for it. I think it's great. Samuel has been a Ram killer. Samuel is versatile. Samuel presents real matchup problems. You know what Brandon Ayuk is? He's just a very good receiver, like almost nearly every NFL team has. Like so many came out of this year's draft, like so many are coming in next year's draft. And you had a free agent named OBJ just signed with the Dolphins the other day. You can get another good receiver, right? And I love it. Please, John Lynch, trade Deebo Samuel, give Ayuk a fat contract, and speed up your demise. I just think Deebo Samuel, I'm not a huge Deebo Samuel guy. I don't think he's an elite receiver, but boy, he does a lot of stuff, man. He does a lot of stuff, and he is a matchup problem. Ayuk, he's just another dude, man. He's just another dude who's very good, but I can get that dude anywhere. Deebo Samuel is something different. So please give Ayuk the fat contract, hamstring the 49ers, and get rid of Samuel, who's a Ram killer. All right. It's starting to buzz around now. A lot of different places are doing it. Favorites in the NFC, AFC. When I look at the NFC, we know there are some teams on the rise. We know there are some teams that are going to be better. I'm not really going to talk about the Bears. I still think, Keenan Allen has to play a full season, right? We got to find out if Caleb Williams can really play in the NFL, which I think he can. And then it's the Bears, right? It's the Bears. So you got to play it out for this year. The contenders in the NFC this year are the Rams, 49ers, Lions, Packers. And I know they've done a lot of stuff, the Eagles, but where I think the Eagles might be the most vulnerable is I'm just not sold on Jalen Hurts. None of you guys have called me out on that. So I'm wondering if you think about it, because if you're thinking about it too, I expected pushback when I said I'm not a Jalen Hurts guy. And something's not right with that guy. He did not look good last year to me. He looked hurt. And the more you run, the more banged up you get. So my favorites in the NFC, that one of these four teams I think will be in the Super Bowl: Rams, 49ers, Lions, Packers, and a long shot would be the Eagles. The other teams I don't see making that kind of noise this season. Next, in 2025, it could be different. My favorites in the AFC, the Chiefs, the Texans, the Bills, that AFC North, right? If Russell Wilson gets back to what he was in what would that be? 2020 in Seattle, maybe the Steelers. I see the Steelers again because of their quarterback problem, a one and done in the playoffs, and it's a shame because you look at their roster, they could be anything. Man, I'd go with the Bengals, but can Joe Burrow stay healthy, right? Lamar Jackson, I think he's a great player. I like Lamar Jackson as a player. You can see where he's gotten better. He's worked hard. He's done all these things to get better. I think he's a good leader. He goes out there and he plays hurt. I like Lamar Jackson, but you know what I don't like about Lamar Jackson? He's just not an elite passer. He's just not. And every year, it's not Lamar Jackson making excuses, but every year there's an apologist for Lamar Jackson. He didn't have enough talent. Oh, the game plan against the Chiefs was bad. They didn't run the ball enough. All these things. It's always some other issue that the media comes up with. I don't, unless Lamar Jackson's leaking something to them, you never hear Lamar Jackson complaining. So I'm not anti-Lamar, but it is plain to see Lamar has limitations. He just does, right? And the Browns, yeah, they're the Browns. Okay. So the Texans I like. They still might be a year away. I think the Chiefs are going to be better this year. My one wild card team in the AFC at this point, and this sounds like a little bit of recency bias. It sounds like a little punch drunk glory here, but I like the Bolts. I do. I like Jim Harbaugh being there. They got a real NFL head coach. They got a guy that knows his business, a guy that's going to operate confidently, a guy that's respected in the room, a guy that's helped make some hard calls with his new GM. And it is Harbaugh's show, and he's got a frontline quarterback. Yeah, I like the Bolts this year. Now, I don't know if they can make it to a Super Bowl, but you know what? They're going to be a tough out for a lot of teams. Okay, around the NFL and other places, Bills signed Chase Claypool, former Steeler, who they fleeced the Bears for a second-round pick for Chase Claypool. And Chase Claypool, after that rookie year, looked like he was the dude. Boom, he's gone. And now he's in Buffalo with a chance to revitalize his career or restart his career. Like I said, the Dolphins signed OBJ, and this one's interesting for Steeler fan Rob in Missouri. The Steelers declined to pick up the 5th-year option on Najee Harris. That one was interesting. That one's interesting. I mean, just your 5th year, right? You're not talking about extending him. Just pick up the 5th year. Are you saying he's done? You don't want to pay for him? I'm kind of curious about that one. All right, Bon Voyage, Darvin Ham. The Lakers are a disaster. They really think they won something in that summer tournament back in 2020. And the question comes up, why would a top-tier coach ever want the Lakers job when he has to kiss the butt of his players? Why would he? Why would he? I'm sorry. If you lead something or you're responsible for something, then you're calling the shots. And the NBA is so, upside down on this issue. If the Lakers were serious, and they're not, I think they're hamstrung by they need that prime player. But all really LeBron James is now, he's a stat maker. He fattens his stats, and everyone's in awe of a 41-year-old. But they're always in the play-in game. They won the title in 2020 that if they had played a full season that year, I can almost, if it was up to me living or dying, I would say they wouldn't have won the title because they would have all broke down. And it was a summer tournament. So, they need to move on from LeBron, trade him, and even if they have to move Anthony Davis, they need to move on. Then Jeannie Buss really needs to use some wisdom here. If she likes her GM, then they need to hire a strong coach with a great relationship with their GM. And it's just this one trifecta of Jeannie, the GM, and the HC calling the shots, and all the players are answerable. All the players are answerable. The idea of me going, oh, please, LeBron, play. No, it's done. I own the team. You're not doing it. Watching the Villanova Knicks last night take out the Philadelphia 76ers. And I did say that deliberately, the Villanova Knicks. It causes me to wonder if the NBA is about to go through a mid-major period, right? Those Villanova guys know how to play basketball. And they may not have the continuity of playing in New York, but they have the continuity of maturing in a similar system for Jay Wright at Villanova, and then having it come together. And you're looking at the NBA right now, and everything is trade, get rid of this guy, do it real fast, get rid of it. It's the coach's fault, with the exception of Spoelstra and Steve Kerr, right? And they keep moving guys all the time. And it's like, you know what? Why don't you put a team together and let it grow together, let it be good together, and build from there instead of trying to steal home with a superstar, really, because it's not working out. Dame Lillard didn't work out in Milwaukee. Beal didn't work out in Phoenix. Kevin Durant hasn't worked out in Phoenix. And I think the problem in Phoenix is not Bradley Beal or Kevin Durant. I think the one connecting link to all of Phoenix's problems postseason the last few years, they need to move off Devin Booker, because I just don't think the guy gets you points. He looks pretty, but look at the Knicks. I'm not saying they're going to win a title, but I think they're kind of proof of what Denver did. Now, Denver right now has the best player in the world, but the core of that Nuggets team has been together for several years. Chemistry, familiarity, and knowing how to play basketball. That's what caused a lot of these mid-majors, San Diego State, VCU, Butler, all these teams, to Gonzaga. These are the things that allowed them to move into the next stratosphere of college basketball, while the one and dones killed the blue bloods. And now they're on par with them, and they're banging hits. Heck, if you look at UConn right now, UConn has a lot of great players, and they got a lot of money, and they got everything else, but they don't have that one outright superstar. They just got a lot of guys that know how to play ball. And that's the difference. And I'm wondering if the NBA would ever think about gravitating, or is thinking about gravitating, as you watch the success of some of these teams, that you stop trying to repeat the Bosh, Wade, LeBron experience in Miami, and that you just build your team and keep a core group together for a few years. And I think if they did that, if they did some of the stuff that we're seeing in the NCAA right now, did that mid-major tilt, it could spell the end of the surrender to incredibly talented and overly valued superstars who pad their stats and have people convinced they're great when their greatness is well behind them. Lakers should think about that. And if I'm the owner of a team and I had Ballmer money, yeah, I would take the losses financially and do it, because Ballmer, the Clippers owner, has kind of blank you money. We're just going to call it Ballmer money. And if I had Ballmer money and I owned a team, Pat Bev, who threw that basketball twice into the stands at people, hit a woman, then hit a man, I like Pat Beverly as a player, but he would have been cut before the team left the locker room. I'd have Tom Cruised his butt and all the right moves. I said, you find a different way home because you're gone. And if I'm getting that ball thrown at me, I'm going to court because that dude's got dough and I'm going to find a reason to make his life miserable. Just brain dead move. And they need to suspend him, get him toast. He's toast. He should be toast. But if these things could happen in the NBA, if there could be a demonstration of courage back in the face of the players, I think the NBA could make a comeback. All right. There we go. I got it out of the way. There we go. I know I'm trying to stay in my lane. Yes.
Stay in your lane, bro.
I stayed in my lane. I'm Joe Terozzi, a sports writer for 21 years, and now I do RamView along with our sponsor. Thank you to our sponsor, Kistler Law. And I write books, and my books are available on Amazon. Type in Joe Terosian, Torosian on Amazon, and you'll find my books. I have 2 high school football novels. This one's my second one, Temple City and the Company of the Ages. And this one and my other one were well received. They did very well sales-wise. My third book, Game Day in the Ram Cave, is expected out very soon, and I'll be letting you know about that. And I do RamView, and I write books because it supplements my income with my day job. I am a pastor of a small church in Burbank Faith Nazarene. We have a channel right here on YouTube, Burbank Faith Virtual, and burbankfaithvirtual.com and Burbank Faith Virtual across social media. So that's my background, and that's who I am. Okay, we do a few questions here. Bernsey, you're here. I didn't expect to see you today. I saw Eisen's interview. Nothing indicated Donald's return. You know, I wasn't saying, how do I say that? No, I don't think anything indicated. I think everyone's kind of grasping at straws. But here's the thing. We grasped at those straws back in March, and now it's getting a national run because, Les Snead allowed Rich Eisen and them to talk and grasp at straws. I think it's okay. I just want to say that we had the idea first. Right here, all of us had the idea first. Willie Bowen, Pat Hayden, Roman Gabriel, Jim Everett, Vince Ferragamo, Matthew Stafford, and Jeff Kemp, my favorite LA Rams quarterback. You left out Steve Dills. Bowen, you left out Steve Dills. Dills got the win in Monday night in 1986 against the Bears. Bears beat the Rams in the NFC title game with Dieter Brock in 85. Rams go there on a Monday night with Steve Dills at quarterback, and he guides them to the win. I think it's Lansford's barefoot 50-yard field goal that gives them the win. Man, you got to get Steve Dills in there. Steeler fan Rob from Missouri. Tim and I were just talking about who has the shortest arms on the Rams. Yeah, I guess you could say that. Go ahead. Doesn't bother me in the least. You're the ones that spent a number 1 draft pick on a quarterback, right? Who had such small hand. We'll see. Tim Burns, the Purdy hype is dropping, getting negative attitudes. I just think I like Purdy, but he needs to be surrounded by great players. And those players are, like we said, they're injury susceptible. And he needs someone like a Deebo Samuel, I think, more than a Brandon Ayuk. That's just me. All right. Tim Burns, let's see. Running quarterbacks need guaranteed because they don't stay elite for very long. No, they don't. Although I will give regular season props to Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson keeps going out there, and he's had 2 healthy seasons, I think, now in a row. I think he said, no, last year was the healthy season. But we know he can't throw. We just know he's not a big-time thrower. Willie Bowen, how many UDFAs will make it on LA Rams? Well, that's a good question. And, I think the Rams signed something like 25 guys last year. And let me take a look. I'll tell you right now who were undrafted free agents that were on the Rams last year. Ronnie Rivers has been with the team 2 years, so he wasn't a new one. Xavier Smith was an undrafted free agent that's still around from last year, signed during the post-draft moment. Not Zach Tom. I'm just looking at some of these guys. Sean Jolly's been on and off the roster. Jake Hummel's been on and off the roster. And then you're looking at Tanner Brown. He's back. And these are the guys. Alex Ward was an undrafted free agent. So maybe 3 or 4. Some of them bounce back and forth. They've been around for a couple of years, like Keir Thomas. He's been around since 21, 22. So not many of them make it. They get cut. Then they get picked up on somebody else's practice squad. And if they don't get picked up, they return to the Rams. Bernsey, Willie Bowen, Jim Everett had a few years of elite play. Then his O-line got him killed. Okay. Manuel Korea, how's it going? Willie Bowen, what's up, Manuel? Okay, you guys get to hang out because of me. Thank you. USA Expat, do you want to bet that when the home away schedule is released, the Rams will out travel the 49ers in miles by a ton? Hey, let's just be thankful. So far as we know, the Rams aren't doing any overseas games. I hate the overseas games, with props to our friend Joe Kim in Denmark. I don't like the overseas games. I'm just curious, is this the year, week 16, week 17, that Frisco comes to LA, right? Doesn't it get inverted every year? And that'll be nice. That'll be nice if it's back here and the Rams are healthy. Let's see here. Manuel Carrillo, what's up with you? Okay. Lions have to stay healthy. Yes, they do. But man, they're just a team that makes smart moves these days. And so I do like the Lions. I never understood how we got all of that chippiness with them during the playoff game, but the Lions are a good team. Tim Burns, LBJ is killing the next decade of the Lakers. Yeah, well, they weren't very good after Kobe until he got there. Then people were talking about him, but they kind of went from a non-playoff team. And if you throw out the 2020 season, they went from a non-playoff team to a playoff play-in team with LeBron. That's not exactly a huge jump, but he keeps them interesting because the KBM loves him. But I just don't think he's ever called out. And my problem is that you got to have a coach that's in control, a coach that runs the show. I shared it earlier with somebody, whether it's ministry or camps or anything. If the responsibility is going to fall on you, then I'm going to lead no matter what. I'm leading. I'm not going to surrender that to anybody else. And if I have to bench my superstar, I'll bench my superstar. I have to put my superstar in the street, I'll put my superstar in the street to let them know. And the problem that comes down is ownership. Obviously, ownership, you've got the name Bus. It doesn't make you Doc Bus. And it doesn't mean Jerry West is at the GM spot or even Mitch Kupchak. And someone's pretty gutless in that Laker upper echelon there, and they're paying the price. And I find myself rooting for the Clippers because, they got this dream of Kawhi, but they keep moving, trying to do something. And that Intuit Arena is going to be beautiful in Inglewood down there by SoFi. That's going to be gorgeous. And I find myself, I don't know what Ballmer's politics are, his faith is, whatever, but Ballmer is passionate about his team and he has Ballmer money. And so the Lakers, the Clippers pull off something here, it could change everything in this town. Or we're going to see the sale of the Lakers from the Bus family. Seems like it's unthinkable, but that could happen. The Nike Basketball Association, USA Expat. Tim Burns, LBJ is Lakers 7th in the West Conference 2 times, 8th, 10th, 11th, and a bubble title. He needed to go last year. I agree. Imagine Brandon Ingram, Kuzma, Randall, Nance Jr. still here. That is a solid team. No Lonzo, though. I'm not a huge Laker fan anymore. I used to be. If you caught up with me about 30 years ago, you'd have found me there. But I'm not saying that they were great or anything before, but they just need a strong hand, and they don't give anybody time. USA Expat. Unfortunately, when I think of Purdy, I think of Mark Purdy. Ugh. Okay. Tim Burns. I have a friend that is a rabid Rams fan from London. He flew to Seattle for a week, all because of those UK games. I know. I'm a bad guy on that. I need to be a better guy on that one. I know, especially since we got folks in Europe watching us. Tim Burns, Clippers owner, is a big goober, and I love it. He cares about his team. That's the one thing you can say about Ballmer, is he really cares about his team, and it's fun to see. All right, Rams update. Jared Verse is going to be wearing number 8. And that's really interesting. Did you know number 8, the Rams between like 1947 and 79, like 30 years until Jeff Rutledge came, no one wore number 8 for the Rams. It's really a lost number in those early years. But since then, every kicker the Rams have had since 2021 has worn it. Matt Gay, Brett Maher, Lucas Havrisik, they all wore number 8. Steve Dills wore number 8. Jeff Rutledge wore number 8. Tommy Maddox wore number 8. And Sam Bradford wore number 8. So Jared Verse is going to be the first one on defense to wear number 8. So good for Jared Verse. The UDFAs were officially announced as signed this week. And there were 16 names. And there's only two names that weren't on that original list. It's a defensive back from SMU, Charles Woods, and another linebacker, off-ball linebacker out of Marshall, Elias Neal. And I think I've heard of Elias Neal. I didn't hear about Charles Woods. And they're all on the Rams UDFA, which means they're coming to OTAs and all that kind of stuff camp. And we'll see if any of them stick, any of them end up on practice squad, and we'll see from there. Again, Rams schedule, 49ers, Cardinals, Seahawks twice, then Bears, Lions, Patriots, Jets, and Saints on the road. And I think it was USA Expat, were you talking about Rams travel distances? There you go. You've got the Patriots and Jets. Those are far trips. And then you got the Bears and Lions, Midwest, Saints, middle of the country, kind of in the South. And so that's where they're going. So not too bad mile-wise. And then the home games are the ones that really pay off. Not on the road against the Vikings, at home against the Packers, not at Lambeau, not in the snow against the Bills. It's right here in SoFi. Not in the humidity in Miami, because Miami, that's a long flight too. Rams aren't going to Miami. And they're not going to Philly to play the Eagles, and the Raiders are coming here as well. So that looks pretty good for the Rams in terms of their scheduling and their flight time. All right, let's see what we got here.
It was a stone groove, my man.
Okay, it was a stone groove. All right, but we have to do this date in Rams history and then answer some questions here. On this date in 1977, the Rams traded a Washington State center that had been with them for a season or two named Jeff Reese. And he was sent with the 51st pick overall in the second round to the Seattle Seahawks for the first or the second or third pick in the second round, which was number 31 at that time in 1977. So the Rams moved up 20 spots, swapping picks and giving Jeff Reese to the Seahawks for Nolan Cromwell. Nolan Cromwell joined the Rams in 77. Is that foresight or what? Rams jumped up. They invested. I think Jeff Reese was a third-round pick. I'll have to go look that up. But it's kind of eerily similar to the Fisk deal. And they jumped up for somebody they saw and somebody they liked. And Nolan Cromwell, he's kind of getting the Eddie Meter treatment in the sense that top flight safety in the NFL. It's kind of been forgotten that maybe needs a second look when it comes to Canton, because Nolan Cromwell was pretty special. That same day in the 77 draft, the Rams built their Super Bowl team, key components of their Super Bowl team in 79. Bob Brzezinski was drafted, Billy Waddy, Cromwell, Wendell Tyler, Vince Ferragamo. Now, the Vince Ferragamo thing is interesting because the Rams used a fourth-round pick they got from the Saints in 76 to draft Ferragamo. And what the Rams did was they sent a fifth-round pick they had in 76 out of LSU, a linebacker named Ken Bordelon. And that summer, he was traded to the Saints. He had been a fifth-round pick. The Rams got a fourth-rounder the following year back, and that's how they ended up having the fourth-round, 91st pick to take Ferragamo out of Nebraska. And I would say that deal paid off as well as the Cromwell deal. Also, in that 1977 draft, there was this weird thing. The Redskins, which George Allen was still there, the Redskins sent the third pick, their third-round pick, which turned out to be 66th overall in 1981. This is 1977, but the Redskins sent their third-round pick in 1981 to the Rams in 1977 for the Rams' 7th round and 9th round in 77 and 8th round in 1978. Did you follow me? Rams sent their 7th and 9th round pick in 77, their 8th round pick in 1978 to the Redskins for a third round pick in 1981. 4 years later, really weird trade. And I don't know if there was somebody on the board that the Redskins wanted. I looked at those numbers. I didn't recognize too many of those names. The Rams used that third round pick on a defensive end out of Arizona named Bob Cobb. Anyone remember Bob Cobb? Robert Cobb spent 1 year with the Rams, spent the 82 season with the Broncos. He only appeared in about 12 NFL games, 6 for the Rams, had 1 career sack, and it sure wasn't with the Rams. So anyway, I thought that one was interesting. On this date in 1978, the Rams traded their 23rd overall pick and 103rd pick to the Cleveland Browns to move up 3 spots to take Elvis Peacock, which I like Elvis Peacock. That's a, if there's a Shakespearean link in the NFL to tragedy, capital T, it's Elvis Peacock, because this guy could have been great. And of course, he had all the knee injuries. But When the Rams took Peacock at 20, the Browns took Ozzie Newsome, then a wide receiver, a heavy wide receiver, big wide receiver from Alabama at number 23. Now, of course, he moved to tight end in the NFL, and he played for about 13, 14 years, ended up in the Hall of Fame. Could you imagine Ozzie Newsome with the Rams during that decade of the 80s? Then again, I can't, because I just don't see John Robinson using him. He'd probably trade him for David Hill. But if Ozzie Newsome had been a Rams tight end, I don't think we'd be talking about Tyler Higbee being the greatest tight end in Rams history. Last note, on this date in 1978, in that draft, in the 7th round, the Rams took a defensive end named Reggie Doss, who spent a decade with the Rams. So good for them. On this date in 1979, the Rams drafted George Andrews with the 19th pick, acquired in the Monty Jackson deal. They drafted Kent Hill and Eddie Hill. Now, you know about Drew Hill, who was drafted the next day in the 12th round. There were 3 Hills taken in that 79 draft. Eddie Hill was a second-round pick. I think he was a second-round pick, 6'2", 205 out of Memphis. He's played 2 years for the Rams and then was traded to the Dolphins and played 4 years there, basically as a special teamer. He got on the field in the 84 Super Bowl against the 49ers, but that was the end of his career. In return for Eddie Hill, who did nothing for the Rams got a 4th rounder in 1983, and they used that to draft Doug Reed, another guy that was there for the decade of the 80s. And so at least the Rams salvaged something there. Let's see what else we got here. I think that's about it. Born on this day in 1951, celebrating his 73rd birthday, is Cody Jones, drafted in 73 by the Rams, gave the Rams a decade's worth of play, solid performer, and should be remembered. Amen. Amen. Okay. And just for good news on this, tomorrow is the 1-year anniversary of the Rams signing Brett Rippon at quarterback. How's that grab you? Does that grab you real good? I know that one's pretty loose. Let's see here. Let's see. Joakim Madison. All right. Madison from Denmark. At least we didn't move up for Trey Lance. Oh, is that brutal or what? Right now, I give them credit for getting out when the getting was good, but man, they did a whole lot of stuff there to get to Trey Lance. And that was pretty brutal. And, again, for a team that's as smart as the 49ers are, we don't like to say that, but as smart as they are, in talent, how did they miss that eval? What went on in that war room? What was Shanahan saying to Lynch, or what was Lynch saying to Shanahan? Like, yeah, we got to get this kid, man. We got to get this kid. And basically Trey Lance didn't play at all in college, right? I mean, he didn't play his senior year because of COVID, had a nice junior year. I mean, it was 1 year of college ball. I don't know what they were thinking, but I'm glad they were thinking it. That was brutal. USA expat. Always loved Ferragamo's arm strength after Hayden's. Yeah. We hit on that on Wednesday. It's like, when Ferragamo got legitimate playing time, we went to a Super Bowl and he made throws that you just weren't going to get out of Pat Hayden. You just weren't going to get it out of him. And again, I've said it because it sounds like I'm Hayden bashing. Loved Hayden at USC, but knowing what we know more about football now and watching those highlights, it was a joke to think we were going anywhere with Pat Hayden. Tim Burns. I chose 82 as a number because of Ozzie. Okay, Ozzie Newsome. Can you imagine what he would have looked like in a Ram uniform? What would we have done with him? He'd have been screaming, "Get me a quarterback to throw the ball." At least there in Cleveland, he had Brian Sipe and Bernie Kosar, right? A little while Paul McDonald, but he had somebody throwing him the ball. And I was a big Brian Sipe guy. Joakim Madsen. How the H do they calculate that Fisk's pick was the most expensive in the last 6 years? I'm only guessing, Joakim, that they're looking at the draft chart. And I think I did it the day of the draft. I'd have to go back and look it up. And if you break it down, points-wise, because every draft slot's worth a certain amount of points. And the Rams gave up a second rounder, but I don't know what they're estimating where that second round pick's going to be. If the Rams are what we think they are, let's say they go to the NFC Championship game and lose, all right? If they go to the NFC Championship game and lose, that means that second round pick of the Rams is going to be at number 60. That's worth a whole lot more. That's worth a whole lot less, than a second rounder taken at 39, right? And so I'm guessing that's where it's coming from. And so, yeah, they're using draft chart stuff. And so that kind of makes it a little wonky. If I get a chance before we go, I'll take a look at that real quick. Willie Bowen, Aaron Donalds and Reggie Doss wore the same jersey, number 99. Did Reggie Doss wear number 99? I could have swore Fat Phil McKinley wore 99, or I'm not sure. Can someone check that for me before we go off the air? I don't know if Doss wore 99. And we'll see that there. I thought he wore 78 or 77. No, 70. He wore a 70 number, didn't he? 71. I think it was 71. He wore Chabelli's number. That was it. I think so. Double check that, Willie. We'll see. Tim Burns, 400 took Gio Carmazzi, so it's not unheard of to miss. It's not unheard of to miss, but the one thing that is interesting about that is that this brain trust for the 49ers, Lynch and Shanahan, have been very good. And that Gio Carmazzi, I think that one might fall on Bill Walsh when he came back. I don't know. Biozio, I miss Ron Brown returning kicks for the Rams. Yeah, that was kind of fun. I used to love it when he'd take one to the house and then he would bow his head. Remember? He would do a bow to the stands or something. Reggie Doss was wearing Chabelli's number. He was 71. Thank you, Biozio, and thank you for joining us today. I did have somebody come on, and it's in our question stuff. I thought this was a great analogy that came up. And I looked up size-wise, and they match size-wise. There was an analogy. One of our people, gosh, it's slipping my mind right now. Forgive me, but they compared, could Braden Fisk be our version of Justin Smith? And if you remember Justin Smith, I think he was 4th overall in the early 2000s by the Bengals, played 7 years there, then played 7 years the 49ers, multiple Pro Bowls, and he was great. I think he retired after the 2015 season or 2014 season. And you remember, I'd forgotten all about Justin Smith. And then the name was suggested to me. Justin Smith was about 6'4", 288. I think Braden Fisk is listed at 6'5", 297. And so if you could get, you could get Justin Smith performance out of Braden Fisk, I think the Rams are going to be really happy that pick was lopsided in terms of draft value. Really interesting. Let's see. Tim Burns, if it wasn't for the Olympics, Joe, Ron Brown may have never been a Ram. Yeah. Hey, here's the thing about Ron Brown, Baldwin Park High School. I mean, I can throw a football probably to Baldwin Park. Well, no, I'd have to go a ways. But Baldwin Park's right down the street from us, and tough area too. But Baldwin Park, the McNeil brothers, they produced some talent there at Baldwin Park High School back in the day. If you ever get Steve Ramirez on here, I don't think he's on today, he'll tell you about BP High School and their talent. But Ron Brown was legit. Tim Powers, always had hope for Josh Rosen, me, not me. Josh Rosen, I don't know. Here's my thought about Josh Rosen. He went to a Catholic high school and declared he was an atheist. And we know why he went to the Catholic high school, St. John. We know why he went there, because it was a football factory. I get it. St. John Bosco. I get it. That's okay. But I remember when he threw a pick, I wrote, "Fool in his heart says there is no God." There is no God. And everyone was up on him. I had one coach telling me he was going to be the next Aaron Rodgers. And you saw him at UCLA, and you're thinking, I don't think he's that special. Then he's drafted 10th overall, which is there's an irony there. He's drafted 10th overall by the Cardinals. They see 1 year of him, and then they see Kyler Murray, and suddenly Josh Rosen's in the street. And then he starts that bounce around. Where was he? Frisco, Miami, Tampa Bay. And so the Cardinals, even when the Cardinals know to jump ship on you, they know there's a problem. But here's something interesting. About a decade or so before Josh Rosen went 10th overall out of UCLA to the Cardinals, back in 2006, Matt Leinart went 10th overall out of USC to the Cardinals. And you'd think the Cardinals would just stay out of the Southland when it comes to quarterbacks. I thought that was just an interesting irony there. I never liked Josh Rosen. Never did. I was more of a Steve Dills guy. Oh, there you go, Willie Bowen. Also, Alvin Wright wore number 99. Yes, there we go. Alvin Wright. I remember Alvin Wright, just a big fat dude, right? That's when you used to need those guys that played in the middle there. A couple other things here, guys. I'll stick on for another 5 minutes. If you guys want to keep rapping, that's cool. I thought it was a couple of interesting things here on this date in 2012. The Rams signed Corey Harkey out of UCLA, undrafted free agent. Had about 5 years with the Rams, blocking tight end. They didn't bring him back his contract after 2016. And then in 2017, that offseason, the Rams signed Johnny Munt, undrafted free agent. I think Mr. Powers has a Johnny Munt jersey. And he was with the Rams, through the 2001 season, 2021 season. And they got a lot of clicks out of him as a blocker. And of course, he went with Kevin O'Connell to Minnesota. I thought that was pretty interesting. Who was the one that brought up Ron Brown here? Biozio. There was another guy that was a returner for the Rams briefly. He was a defensive back out of Wisconsin. His name was Ron Smith, and he was born on this day in 1983. And he played with the Chargers and the Raiders, but he was kind of like who would you say? A Devin Hester of the 60s and early 70s. He was a high-end kick and punt returner. He had a couple of good years for the Rams. He was born on this day in 1943. Let's see if there's anything else I missed here. Cleveland Gary. Cleveland Gary turns 58 today. The former Ram running back, first-round pick out of Miami. He turns 58. And on this day, that's May 4th that Cleveland Gary turns 58. That's tomorrow. And then tomorrow, in the second day of the 1979 draft, the Rams took Jeff Rutledge and Drew Hill out of Georgia Tech. Maybe the greatest 12th round pick in NFL history, 12th round, 328 overall out of Georgia Tech. And basically, he catches everything Warren Moon throws his way for about 8 years in Houston. All right, Joe Kid Matson, what's your recent post? 2000 Ram players you wish had a better career. Oh, okay. Rams that, 2000 Ram players, post 2000 Rams players who you wish had a better career. For me, I think it's Stedman Bailey. Yeah, it just ended so quick for him, right? It just ended really quick for Stedman Bailey with that shooting thing there, Joe Kim. In 2000, post 2000, which Rams, he got time to play with the Rams. I just think it's Mark Bulger for me. If you think about who I'm sorry he had a better career, and I think he had a good career. I just wish he had a better team around him, had better opportunity. I liked Mark Bulger. I liked Mark Bulger a lot, and I liked a couple of those. I liked Ron Bartell, and again, he had a nice career with the Rams, but it's not like they didn't get to play. And so those are the guys, some of those guys I was hoping for. I know every year when they were drafting Damian Lewis, Ryan Pickett, and Jimmy Kennedy, I'm thinking, we finally got our Warren Sapp. We got our beast in the middle, and we didn't realize Aaron Donald was a decade away. But yeah, I thought lean Mark Bulger. I just had a thing. I really liked Mark Bulger. Willie Bowen. I did have a football card with Reggie Doss wearing 99. Was that a Topps card? Because I remember I was looking for a Reggie Doss card, and I got one that was something off the back of a Twinkie box or something. I never got my hands on a Reggie Doss card. Biozio, Greg Bell. Hey, you came to the right place. You want to talk about Greg Bell. He was that throw-in, went to Notre Dame, drafted by the Bills, had one nice year with the Bills. Then he was kind of throw-in that three-way Eric Dickerson deal. And, from the Bills, he came to us. Cornelius Bennett went to Indianapolis. And I remember, no, it wasn't Cornelius Bennett. Was it Cornelius Bennett? No. It was the other way around. Anyway, we got Greg Bell. And I was kind of like, no, man, I want Charles White. I want Charles White to play. I'm a big Charles White guy. And then you saw in 88, 89, why they went with Greg Bell. And it was interesting, really angry when the Rams didn't re-sign him after 89. And, but that was kind of tempered a little bit because he went to the Raiders and that was it for him. I think he had like 10 carries, 14 carries the next year with the Raiders, and his career was over. And you would have thought maybe it was a bad deal in Oakland or in with the Raiders, that maybe he could have gone someplace else. But the Rams got 2 great years out of him, and those were great years. Those were great years with Greg Bell. He was fantastic. Willie Bowen, yes. Willie Charles White, yeah, there we go. Big Charles White guy. All right, let's keep looking along here, guys. I'm going to go one more minute. If you have questions, throw them at me. I'm just looking through my list here on things that sometimes I put stuff in and then I kind of skip over them real quick. Is everyone cool about the Matthew Stafford deal? Everyone's cool about understanding that he's not asking for more money. He's asking for more guaranteed money. I know some people, I just think there's an error. Everyone's just trying to get everyone uptight about that. And I don't think there's a reason to be uptight about his contract coming up and questioning that one. Willie Bowen, Irv Pankey, Mel Owens, Biozio. We're just naming off the thing. Biozio, yes, pay the man. Guarantee his dough, right? Because he's a $60 million quarterback. You're getting at 50 rocks, right? I agree. Irv Pankey, I think what people forget about Irv Pankey is that during the 80s, he was the left tackle. Jackie Slater was the right tackle. And think about that, how bookended that Rams offensive line was for a decade. Left tackle Irv Pankey and Jackie Slater at right tackle. And then you're running Doug Smith at center. Then you're running Dennis Hara. You're running Tom Newberry, Kent Hill for the first half of the decade. Really solid offensive line there. Let's see here. Willie Bowen. Did Anthony Davis, running back from USC, play for the Rams? Yeah, in 78, when all the injuries came. Tyler was hurt. McCutcheon got hurt, hamstring. He only ran for 420 yards in 78. That was about the end of McCutcheon. I remember Capoletti had some injury issues. They were winding down, and the Rams signed Anthony Davis. He was a free agent. I remember it was such a big deal. They signed Anthony Davis. Everyone was excited. I think he had about 2 or 3 carries. I think in a game that was a blowout late in the year, he came in a goal line situation, and everyone was hoping Anthony Davis would get the ball, and he didn't. And then when he got cut going into the 79 season, you got to figure, you had Peacock, you had McCutcheon, you had Wendell Tyler, you had drafted Eddie Hill. Anthony Davis's chances of making the team were toast. And then he had his final fling was that brief 83 appearance with the LA Express. And I think that was more about getting attention for the team than not. Joe Kim brought up, what's a player that you wish had a better NFL career? Anthony Davis. If you saw Anthony Davis play at USC, maybe I was more jaded watching Reggie Bush. He was a great player, probably definitely more talented than Anthony, but Anthony Davis was magical. Anthony Davis was he just made things happen, right? And he always made them happen against Notre Dame, especially, and that was great. My first college football game that I saw from start to finish all the way through was 55-24, and that was Anthony Davis taking the second half kickoff back for a touchdown. Yeah, he did have a brief tenure with the Rams at the end of the 78 season. Marcus Dupree came in with the Rams in 90 and 91, and he hadn't played football for 5 years. And if you saw him, he ran in garbage time a little bit. His speed was gone, but he could still run. He ran, a good power back. When Chuck Knox came in 92, he was toast and everything. But yeah, Marcus Dupree. Biozio. I saw Anthony Davis play senior league baseball for the San Bernardino Pride. Really? Oh, wow. I didn't know that. You know what I did hear about Anthony Davis? He put on some weight and he got a stomach staple. That's what I heard. I definitely think one of those Heisman trophies that he didn't get in the 70s should have gone to him. If you're going to give it to Archie Griffin in 75, should have given it to Anthony Davis in 74. That's just me, though, right? That's just me. Yeah, I knew Anthony Davis was a pretty good baseball player playing for Rod Dato at USC. All right. I think we got it in, and that's really cool. Guys, thank you so much for clicking on and hanging with me. I do appreciate you very much for helping us make our mark here as we've gained. Thank you, Biozio. I appreciate that a whole lot. You never know. We thought when the season ended, we would slow down in our hits and everything, but literally we've picked up 100 new followers just since the end of the football season. On the field stuff, we expected it to slow down, and we're just feeling really excited. We're so thankful to our sponsors that allow me to do this, and the goal is to make the show better. And for new listeners, again, I always say it, we love the interaction here. We love the interaction here. And, I've got some friends that would be great on the show, but there is you learn this from listening to Vin Scully. And when you listen to Vin Scully growing up, no color commentator, it was like Vin Scully was talking to you. And then through the COVID shutdown, when we were doing things for my church, we had some success online, and people were saying it was like we were in the room together because we did it this way. And I feel like it's helped us a lot here, is that I'm talking to you guys. I'm not talking to my friend next to me. And so we are really happy to talk football. And it feels like old school sports talk. I remember you used to turn on the radio and you used to hear sports talk, not man shows, not breaking down the best sports movies of all time, not talking about what somebody ate or what happens at the Academy Awards. Unfortunately, so many of our national sports shows have gone that way, and they just don't talk sports anymore. And so this feels like we're talking sports. All right. Oh, man, Jim Healy. In my opening of the show, there is a little bite there of Jim Healy. Love Jim Healy. If I could replicate Jim Healy, I would replicate Jim Healy because I think he was blanking brilliant. Okay, guys, I better run. I hate to leave you guys when you're all clicked on, but got to go, got to respect your time. Got to go say hi to the wife. God bless. Take care, and we will see you on Monday. Bye-bye.